tunaenda tu chini mpaka chini, lakini tutafika chini juu tuizifika chini. Welcome back. We continue with Entertainment Thursday, still having so much more lined up for you, and we want to move on to the second interview for the day. And kama kawaida, tukona Miss D on the other end. Remember, use the hashtag Good Morning Kenya. We'll be checking in with you in not too long. But for now, let us head on out and listen to Doreen once again. D, over to you.
Yes, we are still here at the Kenya Cultural Center, or Kenya National Theatre, whichever one you prefer, by the way. It's all up to you. But we are still here. We're having this conversation on theatre, on matters arts, and specifically narrowing it down to theatre. We had the stakeholders on our first conversation. Right now we have the players. Yes, the ones that we were talking about creativity. Let's just get to also hear their perspective on matters art. And also we'll just touch a bit on this ongoing festival, which is the Kenya International Theatre Festival, still ongoing up until the 14th of November. Began on 2nd, and it's all about creating awareness and popularizing art as a whole. So we begin from my guest again. This is my 3 guests this morning. All of them are actors, and we start from my immediate. I keep confusing. This is what my immediate right. Well, the art is always easy and chilled. So my immediate right. This is Ileene Anyona. She's an actress who also doubles up as a director. That is at Millaz production. Right next to her is Mike Ndeda, who's an actor from the same production house, that is Millaz production. And again, right next to me, that is to my immediate left, this is Flora Okonji. Flora Okonji, I had to say her name twice for obvious reasons. She is also an actress from the same production house, that is Millaz production. Guys, let's just start from what the stakeholders are talking about, and even just pick it up from what the CEO said. And maybe I can begin with the gent, the only gent in this mix. This is you, Mike. Ati wasanii hamna creativity. Kwanza na hiyo imekutouch sana.
Hiyo imenigusa. So I think wasanii wako na the creativity they need, but kuna ile haujui fanya nini na talent yako, ama uko na talent but watu una trust na talent yako hawajui wafanye nini talent yako. So kuna hiyo back and forth yenye tumekuwa hapo katikati, watu wajui nini wafanye.
Ileene kwanza alikuwa anasikia hata akwe wa kwanza just wondering, why are you saying we're not creative enough? I mean, I was even asking the CEO, do you know what goes into place? From the scripting to rehearsals to actually staging the play. Maybe we can get your perspective as the players in the industry.
Okay. So I think that the thing is with corporate or with people who are, let me say, like, parents' age bracket, they had this idea of creativity. So when the youth are trying so much to revolutionize it, they feel like it's different. So the idea is that they're not very accepting to it. So now it's like, oh, there's no creativity, because the idea of creativity is headed towards a certain direction. Also, just to add on what he said, I think the problem is there's the creativity, but then it doesn't take one person, and you also need an audience and you need support. And the problem is people are not very accepting to things that are headed towards the direction of art. So you find that you're maybe a poet, you're a painter, you're an actor, you are a singer, but there's nobody to really support. So it's like, oh, because we're not seeing it, then it's not there. But the thing is, it's there, you're just not looking for it, or looking in the right direction. Sorry, looking in the right direction, because even Kenyans, for Kenyans, it's almost like it's lacking. So that's why you find people saying things like, oh, Kenyans don't know how to act, oh, there's no singers in Kenya. There's all that. You're just not supportive enough to Kenyans, and especially young people. Yeah, because of the whole idea.
You talk about support, and I want Flora to chime in onto that, because the CEO just told us that as it is, government's already doing enough. Okay, not as much as enough, but at least it's doing something, because we have policies, structures, at least ziko hapa na pale. Shida tu ni nyinyi wasanii, by the way, according to him.
Well, so that's a really interesting question, asking on the side of the policies, because I'm a lawyer by profession, and we all know that laws in books is totally different from law in practice. So the government could be doing a lot, but then you ask yourself, is the government doing a lot for the stakeholders? Because then if the government is channeling its funds to the stakeholders, are we saying the funds are getting to the artists and the artists are just sitting down? So the government is probably giving money to the stakeholders, and they would tell you the government is giving us money. But we are not getting that money. If they say we are not creative enough, right now KitFest happens once in a year, and they get just a few production houses to perform. Now, at what point do you decide that the creativity levels are low? Because did you source for these creative minds? There's so many creative minds out here, but you didn't know why. We want to cycle directors, and if we want to come here and pick artists from theater, we pick a few, and then they get maybe extra roles. But the truth is, even if you transition from theater to film, there is constant faces that you'd see in Kenyan films, and that is outright wrong. So when you come and say, oh, these people are not creative, come here and see people rehearsing under these trees, then you'd see the real art. But if you come to KitFest, you'll see the lucky few, and we are very privileged to be chosen. You'll see the lucky few. But there's people out here who are really talented, but you wouldn't know why, because you're not on the ground and you're not even sending as much as representatives to source for this talent. So there is creativity. The government has put up right policies, and the government is probably giving money, but the money is for the artists, supposedly, but is not getting to the artists.
Now you speak, and I feel like I wish we would have had this conversation with the stakeholders together with the players. So from what you're saying is that actually the problem is not the artist or the government, is there's a missing link.
Intermediary, because the artist doesn't, the government doesn't necessarily come to the artist and say, this is your money for production for this particular play. No, there are people who have sat, and countries like Nigeria, they have a whole ministry for arts. In Kenya, we do not have that. But we don't have a whole ministry for arts. But we have a ministry for culture, and they are definitely having these conversations, and they have the budgets for this. And the ministry will someone in the ministry will say, now we are going we want to sponsor this, and people will collect this money. And who want to them if they would collect this money and come and look at our eyes and say we are not creative. We are creative, but we can't be creative in the bathroom.
Hii convo ya creativity imewashika sana.
Imetugo.
Personal. The way you guys are speaking is like, do you know what actually goes into a theater?
They don't know. Background is different. It's totally different.
All right, guys, let's talk about another aspect. This is about professionalizing art. You know, also a good number of stakeholders will also tell you that the problem again with Kenyan artists, or even the art itself, is that we just want to do things kienyeji. There's that bit of professionalism lacking into it. And maybe I can start with you, Ileene. Let me just pick your mind on that. Do you feel like that is also a case? And maybe if it's an issue, what can be done to make it as professional as any other craft or any other job?
Okay, so I'd say it starts from the very beginning. You find that most people actually get to experience art or actually take part in it after high school. Yeah. And the thing is, when you join at that point, you're fresh from high school and you know the very bare minimum. And you get to this industry and people are telling you, I'm giving you exposure. I'm giving you exposure, you know? And you're there, you're thinking, okay, people will actually know me and all of that. And so you're growing into the art itself, in the industry itself, thinking, okay, I need exposure. Okay, it's okay if I'm given this much. It's okay if I do things in this manner. Because, you know, when you have no information, then you get to do things the way you're told or how you found things going on. So I think the first bit that we need is the information. We need to actually tell, you know, artists need the information that, you know, things need to go towards this direction, things, because there's people who've had the privilege to experience this part where you're being told, oh, I'm giving you exposure, oh, you know, I'll give you 2,000, you know, and they've also gotten to experience the other side where things are professional, because you can't say that there's the entire lack of professionalism. There is, you know, in some production houses and in some places where you'd find that it's really practiced, but then there's the majority where you pick artists and you're telling them, I'm giving you exposure, or I'm giving you 2,000, or you know what, I will pay for your fare and I'll give you food, and you get exposure. So you're there, you're thinking, all right, okay, this is fine. But I think what is needed the most is artists to actually understand what professionalism is. Am I getting into this with a contract, or am I getting there being told, all right, you will be given, you won't have to buy your own costumes, and I'll give you food, and I'll give you lunch, and you know what, if the show sells, then you'll have some money. But you see, the problem would be that people do not have the information. They don't know who can lead me towards knowing how professional or how things need to be done. Yeah, and I think that's very, very, very important. And even if there's any laws in place for in anything, how does this information get to the people? How does this information get to the, and especially when they're starting, because when someone's starting, they're very naive. And they'll just take whatever they're given.
All they have is talent.
Yes, and all they have is talent. And they'll grow into it thinking this is okay and this is how it needs to be.
Let me come to you, Mike. What is wrong with exposure? Umetoka tu high school wewe pia wewe. Nakupea platform. What is wrong with exposure?
I think ukitoka high school unajua nile drama festival, umeshatoka drama festival, unaweza sema population ya the people wanatoka drama festival ni ka 1 million from four leavers. So after kumaliza high school unaenda wapi? Unaona, so kuna wale wanaona ni kama tukitoka drama festival tunaenda sasa kufanya our courses. Unaona, tunasema naenda kufanya law, medicine, vitu kama hizo, but kidogo sana wanajua ni wanaifanya kama passion. But na reason ni tumetoka high school, hatujui kama ni art iko pale for commercial purpose ama inakusaidia aje. Most of the time ulikuwa unatoka high school ni ile kama hata your parent, usifanye hizo vitu, una waste time, usifanye hizo vitu, ama fanya lakini
utafanya kitu kingine,
fanya lakini usome, ama fanya alafu ukimaliza utafanya kitu kingine.
But pia kuna seriousness fulani yenye people don't take art with.
Exactly. Okay. So na unatoka kuna like right now campuses, watu wanafanya theater film, watu wanasomea, but unasomea alafu the industry maybe bado industry haijaanza ku accommodate watu, so unapata umetumia 844, ni kama tuseme 84, alafu tena the 4, alafu nini nafanyika after the 844? Umeona, so industry itakuwa ni ina fail, ama hatujui kama ina fail ama iko sawa juu ina work.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. I mean, Flora, what is wrong with exposure? Because, and maybe you can also just put your low mind into it, because going even by what Ileene said, umetoka high school, you see the much you have is talent. Na kwanza kama ulikuwa mtu wa drama fest, such kind of things, they still are into you. You're coming into this space. I have a production company. You have the talent, but I still have to teach you and train you, because it's not talent that will sustain you in this kind of industry. So when someone comes, a producer, a director, tells you, I can see your craft, I can see your talent, but I'm giving you exposure. You will learn as you go. What is so wrong with that?
I think it makes people complacent. Now, once someone attains the age of 18, they've attained age of majority, and now this means that you can legally employ someone, and they can legally work for you. Now, if a production house is coming to ask me, as someone who's just left high school, to come and join their production team, first things first is my input there is going to earn them money.
Yes.
If my input there is going to earn them money, then rightfully, whether I'm learning or not, it's like saying, because now you are an intern, it's automatic that you don't have to be paid. While there could be, different production houses could probably look at ways of remuneration, or probably just appreciating upcoming actors, there could be a cap to it. Let's say you're going to be on probation for 2 months. For 2 months, you're learning, because actually drama and theater, two different things. So for 2 months, you're learning, but you can't learn forever. You'd find people who are 11 years into the craft.
I like that. You can't learn forever.
You can't learn forever, and sometimes you learn better on the job. So if you know that to whom much is given, much is expected. So if I'm going to give you a job and tell you this is a contract, this is what I expect from you, it's a job, you're serious. So it starts, the lack of professionalism starts from how people approach this whole idea. They come and say, we kuja nitakupatia show, alafu kutakuwa na madrinks, mapicha huko. it starts.
How is that supposed to help?
Yes, it starts right from how that arrangement and that work relationship was initiated. So if you're going to initiate it by saying just come ni exposure is good, but to some level. But once you start growing, even as an individual, you can't eat exposure. Like you can't pan fry exposure and then add some black pepper on it. And yeah, so I think it's just the approach that even the producers and the production houses themselves are giving to this whole thing. And it's not even different in film. I promise you'd go to one of big production houses, you'd go there as an extra, spend the whole day, and they give you 1,000 shillings. And you've spent, unajua hata kama ungefanya mjengo ungeanza saa moja, you can't start at 7 a.m. and finish at 7 p.m. and get that amount, you know. So it's just the laxity and the complacency that people have in terms of these are just young people are suffering. You know, you get that even in professions, and now you want to get that in art. Young people are suffering, nikimpatia 1,000, they'll take it and they'll move on. So yeah, I would say it starts from how the relationship was created. If it starts with come and get exposure, it's good, but let's put a cap on the exposure levels. And probably even the Ministry of Labor should take a keen interest on this, because so many people, and you come to the Kenya National Theatre during the week, you find so many creatives and they're doing rehearsals and it's work. So it should be treated as such. Yeah.
And I think it was very important for me to actually ask that, and I like the way you've addressed it, like let's put a cap, because it's good to get exposed, you know, because perhaps the production house is training you, but to what extent and up until how long? The way she mentioned, you can't eat exposure until Jesus comes. There needs to be a time where you actually begin appreciating. So that makes a lot of sense.
Totally.
Okay, now let's talk about the event, because you are, you know, lucky enough, if I can say, or to be part of this festival. As Flora mentioned, see production houses zote ama all shows that were ever done that actually got into this space. Maybe Mike, you can explain to us, how did you find yourself as a production company getting into this kind of festival, and what would you guys be performing?
So I think in July we had a show at KNT, so it was, I can say it was big. So I think the organizers of the event, Kit Fest, came to watch the event, and I think they loved it. So I think they want to give us this opportunity to showcase it again. I think we are doing it the third time. The third time, because on July we had a rerun of the same play. So I think it's a big show, and that's why we got the chance to perform at the Kit Fest.
Okay, fair enough. Which play is this one specifically? Because I know as Millaz you've done a whole lot of plays. So which one is this one, and what is so peculiar about this particular?
I'd say, first of all, the play is Blackout. Blackout is a very interesting play. I'd say it's well written, and I'd say that the peculiar thing about Blackout is the issues that it touches on and how it is executed. Because, you know, you can touch on serious matters, but, you know, be very friendly about it so that people understand, because things happen in society and people relate to them. But sometimes when you just, you know, when I come for a play, I'm not coming for you to bombard me with information on my face or like tell me, oh, take this, take that. We're supposed to create conversations around things that are going on and happening in society. And I think that's the wow thing about Blackout, because you will come, and when you leave the play or the auditorium, you'll be like, okay, I enjoyed the play, but I also learned something, and I got reminded that this is going on. So what am I doing about it? What do I think about it? And I'd just like to also go back a little bit on the exposure thing. And I'd like to, my biggest concern would be when you tell an artist or a young artist, and I'm giving you exposure, what are you exposing them to? Are you exposing them to talent and the acting and that bit of it, or are you exposing them to the audience? And if you're giving me exposure, so what do I gain? Because if it's supposed to be, you know, like scratch my back, I scratch your back. So if you're giving me exposure, what am I gaining from the exposure? I'm giving you my talent. I'm coming with my talent. All right. So if you're exposing me, because like she mentioned, we need to treat it as a job, because it is a job. The problem is when they keep asking us, so you're an artist, what else do you do? Or so okay, who are you? I'm an artist, but what do you do? You know, the problem is we don't treat it as a job. So you come there and you're like, oh, I'm giving you exposure. But when you think about it, in any other job, if you got employed, you're fresh from college, for example, so you only have the papers, you don't have exposure. But they don't tell you I'm paying you with exposure. Yeah, and you still get the exposure to the job. You get to network. So you do go look for a job and they tell you, okay, you will network. So you need to take this job because you will network. You know, so if we don't do that with other jobs, so why are we doing that with art?
Ileene has changed the trajectory of this conversation, but who are we? We'll come to blackout in just a short while with you, Flora. But let's take a bit into that. You know, when you talk about, so when you say that you're giving me exposure, what are you giving me? And I think a good number of production companies will tell you, the way you've just mentioned, I want you to network. Like, you know, particularly like for this event, the Kid Fest, just as also the CEO has mentioned earlier, is that he also wants corporates to be part of this event, and I believe there are actually some corporates who are here. So a good number of such people will tell you these corporates are coming here, so it's your chance to take advantage of that. Does that even help in any way?
First of all, I think how corporates look at art in itself is very different. And when you say about corporates, you know, maybe showing interest in you, in what sense? To begin with, because if maybe a corporate will attend the whole festival, maybe they get to watch one or two plays and be like, okay, I really enjoyed what they did. So what are they doing about it? They'll wait for them to have their AGM meeting and tell you guys, okay, I'm inviting you to perform. You know, I think it really begs the question of, if you're giving me exposure, what am I gaining from that exposure? Because fine, I've been exposed, and then because if you ask me, most corporates don't even really invest their coin in art. Yeah, that maybe when they attend an event, or you know, maybe an exhibition, maybe a poetry session and things like that, they come to unwind. They don't come, okay, I'm coming to look for fresh talent in the market. Yeah, they really don't give it maybe an eye or an ear. They just assume it. So when you tell me you're giving me exposure, are you willing to prove to me what I'm gaining from that exposure? Because if you're exposing me, then I should be able to gain from it. Because what do I get from people knowing me, or people knowing that I can act? Am I getting something? Yeah, I think that's...
What about you, Mike? I mean, when you were beginning, was this how it was like for you? Like, you just come, tutakurembas tu fare na lunch, so zingine wewe sasa wetu jipange tu, you know, if you make it. Because, you know, when you look at arts as a whole, the way art has been termed is that industry of, by the ikijipa ni sawa, ikikosa pia kuna venye we look for something else to do.
I think sisi tukianza ilikuwa ni umejaribu mara mingi, alafu unamwacha nijianzie yangu. Like, let's say Millaz production ilianza, it was friends who know each other. Okay, let's come together, we try if we can make a coin from it. And ikaanza, like,
let me cut you short just right there. Let me interject there. Just looking at that foundation, wacha tuanze to try tuone kama ita make coin.
I think in our work everywhere, because even for film, people are complaining about the same faces, but you see the same faces in the industry pia wamejaribu for many years, because most of the companies that tunaona the film industry ni private. So these people pia wamejaribu. So when they get that spot, you know the problem. When that person gets that spot, ni hivo sidoki. Unaona, because nimetry. So I think even Rokuko.
So does that also bring that idea of, by the way, nikishapata hiyo sport kama Millaz, kama Apex, hata kama nita recycle Flora mpaka Yesu arudi, you know?
Because pia ni identity, pia unajipatia identity. Unaona? Because even in acting, in art, kuna ule specific actors wanajulikana wanafanyanga these specific roles. Unaona? So industry inakuwa more of typecasting. I'll get to audition like 1 million people, but I already know who's going to play those roles. Unaona? So it's just for formality. Unaona? So
of course that in itself presents a very big challenge. And you see, I always say that cuts across in arts, not even just acting, singing. If you are in an arts industry, that also inclusive of media, that is entirely art. It is a very big challenge that cast watu, but this is the presenter that I want, but you just come do the auditions. This is the actress that I want for this particular role, but you just come do the auditions. What do you feel can be done then? Because then again, I want to also be on this other side and try and think for the producer's side, or even for the one giving that job. Don't you feel like maybe they're in that place of, if I get this particular person that I've been used to get, inafanya pia company yangu ina stay that place that it needs to stay. It makes my production house, or even if it's that media space, stay in that place that it needs to stay. But again, on this other side, coming to the player side, it has to change, because we still have talent coming up.
I think kila mtu akona pressure fulani. Mwana, the producers wakona pressure ni nimeinvest my money in this, so director nataka kitu fulani, director, actor nataka kitu fulani, actor pia sasa your craft. Mwana, so kuna pressure from huko juu. Mwana, so director ako in a position ya mbona nipatie Mike hii role na kuna mtu fulani anaweza fanya hii role na to meet demands za producer, like pesa itarudi, unaona. Na ni si kwa sababu this person is more talented than this other person, because it's business. Umeona?
It's business. And I feel like sometimes that is the part we really don't get as artists. That in art we have the talent bit of it, we have the commercial perspective, which is the business perspective. But then again, where do we get the balance? Because honestly, pia Kenya Mike anasema makes a lot of sense. As a producer, as a media owner, I'm thinking if I get Flora, I'll make more money than if I get Ileene. Not to say that Ileene is not as talented as you, but only that there's something about your face and your craft that people have identified so much with, that I'm so sure if I get you in that play of mine, it will give me those returns. But again, I have to draw that balance. What do we do?
It's hard. It's actually really hard to pinpoint that this is where we have a veil. This is where we have a veil between business and now the craft. Because as Mike says, most of these producers or production houses, they're privately owned, and so it means they have actually put their own money in there. But it gets boring. And in as much as the producers and the money owners may not want to agree, it gets boring to every time see a particular face on screen, because that's what they can do. And I promise you, there's so much talent that has been untapped. And I like to watch Kenyan productions, and I also love generally to watch African productions, South African productions. And if you go to Showmax right now and you type a particular name for a Kenyan actor, chances are you'll get so many other productions that they are in. Go to South African plays, you type South African, if it's a TV series or a movie, you type a name there. It's not as rampant, and they're actually very good actors. So I think the only thing I'd say is take a chance. Take a chance. You might think, oh, this is the person that people actually really, really love, but guess what? You might never know that there is someone who people would be a darling to people, but is just still untapped. So we're just asking them to take a chance. But while they're not, we are taking our own chances, and we are shooting our own short films. We are going to do theater because it's what we love. Yeah.
Is it like a blessing in disguise? Because we keep having these conversations, especially of these owners or stakeholders. Take a chance on this untapped talents, but it's like nothing is really happening. So is this why most production companies, the way just Mike said, coming together as friends or people with the same idea and purpose, and saying, by the way, ebu shake it to 1, 2, 3. If we can shoot like a short film, or if we can create this play, hata kama itatupatia returns, but let's just do something. Let's put ourselves out there.
Well, I think it's just, Mike says, and rightfully so, that Millaz started as a group of friends, and I'm lucky to be one of the people who was part of Millaz when it started. And it doesn't mean we've blocked people. It doesn't mean you constantly see the same people on stage. And they are good people, but it doesn't mean that they always have to be there. We outsource. as small as we are, we outsource. We get other people to come in, and every single time you'd see a new person on stage, because we are giving chances to every other person, regardless of whether they were pioneers or not. The issue with other people outside this in the industry is they are threatened, and rightfully so, because people are good. They are threatened, and it would mean if someone is good and they just get out there and people see them, it could be over for them. And it's sad, but that's true. It would be over for them. Yeah.
Okay, what was your experience like? I mean, it looks like if you speak to a good number of actors, they will tell you, and even as you go back to that issue of creativity, exposure, trying to get a chance, it just looks like it's the same issues cutting across most of the actors, only that the experience is quite different.
Yeah, the experience is quite different, and also stories differ from person to person. I was lucky to join Millaz, and there wasn't anything like exposure. Millaz was my first commercial theater production to join, and I got paid for what I did. Now, my other challenges haven't been on theater, but in trying to now venture into film. And the truth is, so many of these amazing film actors came right from this place, theater. And they are amazing. So I've been trying to venture. I was trying to venture for a while back there into film. And you meet things like, we are looking for someone who's in their mid-20s, who is tall, who is confident enough, and then you're thinking, wow, this is it. And then you go there, and then what they didn't tell you in that poster is they were also looking for a light person. Now,
You still have those things, eh?
yes, a lot. And they would say, now we take you, you're good, but we're actually looking for someone who's of a lighter shade. And they try to make it look really cute, a lighter shade.
You're actually in your moment.
Yes, and one time I went into an audition just after a really beautiful girl, she's mixed race, she just left out, and I heard them say, sasa situfunge tu, and I'm the next, so I'm like, should I don't be too niende or something. So you see, those are things that are still there. And people need to look past these things. It's enough. There are bad people who are dark. There are bad people who are light. And I don't think light skin and dark skin should really come into play when you're looking for a character. Some of the characters might make sense, but others really it's a lot of baloney.
Ileene, you are really like agreeing a lot when Flora was talking about that issue of lighter skins, and it looks like, because I mean you're trying to get solutions to try and make art, because when you look at art in all totality, theater specifically looks like to still be one of those arts struggling, and it seems that it's still a challenge. Much as we talk about policies, structure, we talk about exposure, creativity, there's still those things that, I mean, it's just beyond our control. What am I supposed to do about being light skinned? That you'd want a light. What am I if I was dark? What am I supposed to do about being light for you to have me on this play? And it looks like you've had your experience.
So first of all, what you were talking about theater struggling. I'd say one of the biggest challenges is that Kenyans, I'd say Kenya because this is where we've lived, this is what we know. Kenyans do not have a theater going culture or a film going culture. You tell somebody, I have a play and the ticket is 1,000 shillings, and someone asks you a question like, why would I pay 1,000 shillings to come and watch something for 2 hours?
I'm always in a pair complimentary.
I'm always in pair complimentary. I mean, rafiki yako, so watch it tu niingie. I think that's one of the things that we struggle with the most, trying to convince people that they actually need to come and watch plays, need to go to theaters and watch maybe musicals. There's poetry, there's so much, there's dances and all of that. So you put in a lot of effort, but people, it's a bit struggling because, like I said, it's not a one department kind of thing. It needs everybody to be a player. And then when you talk about the light skin and those challenges, I'd say a lot of maybe casting directors in Kenya there's a particular people they want to show us on screens. You know how some ideas are shoved down your throat, but almost unknowingly. You know, for example, we used to grow up saying, I want a tall, dark, handsome. It's because that's what we were being shown. And now when you look at it now, as somebody who's auditioned so many times, I understand what she's saying, because sometimes a poster would be very general. A casting call would be very general and say, I'm looking for a female between 20 to 29 years old, and then you're like, okay, that's my age bracket and I can play a role in that. But you got there and you would not be picked for the mere fact that you don't look like a very small girl, like who's between a, you're like,
So
that's what I mean. So yes, and there's you know, sometimes it'll be like a lot of, you look at a lot of casting calls, and when it comes to a role of a female, it's like she needs to be light. She needs to be light. You'd meet every other.
This light, is it specific on that casting call, or they just give every other thing and then they leave light skin?
A lot of times I'd say it's almost a balance, but there's a lot of times you'd see casting calls where they say, I'm looking, you know, she has to be light. She has to can do she has to be light. And then there's times when you'd go for maybe when you've gone to be an extra on set, or maybe when you've gone for an audition. And then, so let me start by when you're an extra on set, and you notice, okay, a lot of these characters are just light skins. Maybe it was a requirement. So what do we do? And then you'd come and blame people for bleaching. They're just trying to fit in, you know? Because I'm good, but I'm not being picked because I'm not light. I'm not being picked because I'm small. I'm not being picked because I'm ABCD. I think there's no inclusivity in that sense, because they want to show us a particular image, and expect you to meet that standard.
Wow, I mean, clearly there's a lot that needs to be done. Let me come to you, Mike. I mean, especially on that particular issue, looks like to still be a pertinent issue when it comes to art. Theater rather, film. Does the same also go for males? Because oftentimes just people who say, you know, they say that they have to be 20 to 29 and light skinned. Does it also go for males?
I think kuna hiyo kitu ya the perfect guy ama the perfect woman. So I think it apply everywhere. So what happens when you have the character description, then you have someone who's not talented. That's hiyo ndo inakuja inafanyika. We have stories. People can't tell the stories because you've casted them because of how they look. This person is not talented but fits your character description. This other person is talented but does not fit your character description, and you want this other person to tell the story you have written.
So you want the character description to tell the story, or vice versa?
The talent to tell the story.
Okay, fine.
Because you cannot have someone who's not talented. Kuna those points when unaanza angalia theater performance or film performance, then you're like, hapo ongeka tu mtu fulani, ongeka mtu fulani, yani you already have this person in mind mwenye angefanya a better job.
I mean, I feel like we needed to have like a very long time. There's a lot that needs to be talked about, but we'll finish this conversation with the blackout, because we changed a bit just to try and understand also how you guys got yourself here. And I'd want you to just, you know, brief us into that, and also what it is that you really hope to achieve from this festival, given that you're one of those production companies in Kenya that at least have managed to be in this festival.
I think we get good ambassadors of our stories. That is one. We are lucky to have our stories written on papers, and we would also like to say a very special thank you to Margareta. She really writes amazing pieces about our plays, and we were able to catch the eyes of Kid Fest. This is our first time being nominated to actually be on Kid Fest. So we were nominated to be on Kid Fest based on the Blackout play, and it's going to show on the 7th at 5:30 p.m. and it's a theme-based story. I think one of the reasons why people find it hard to watch theater sometimes, it's you don't know what the theme is. everything is, people think theater is about making people laugh, but most importantly it's about telling a story realistically. So it's themed and it's based on drugs and life for campus students and young people. So it's something that students and campus people can relate with, people who've been to campus can relate with, and parents need to know what's going on with their kids in campus, whether or not they went to campus. So we were privileged to be able to be nominated for Kid Fest.
So when will you be performing the Blackout?
We'll be performing the Blackout on the 7th of November, this coming Sunday, at 5:30 p.m. in the Kenya National Theatre, the main auditorium. Yeah.
Do people need to get tickets, buy, or what is it?
Yes, you can get your tickets from the Kid Fest Kid Fest website, and we also have links on Facebook. Currently they're running sponsored ads, so it would be easy to just if you meet the sponsored ads, you can buy it. Otherwise, you just type Kid Fest 2021 on your social media handles, and you get all the data and links to purchase your tickets. Tickets go for 1,000 bob.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys, for coming through and talking to us a bit about, not even a bit, actually, about art.
Yeah.
And go get the tickets. Going for 1,000 bob, as Flora has mentioned, also as the entire team is just alluding to. Their show will be on 7. That is the Blackout, one of their best shows. And even while you're at it, the festival is still ongoing up until the 14th of November. We can have these conversations on end, but if you don't come to support the arts, then clearly we'll be doing less and less in terms of supporting art. So this have been my guest this morning. To my immediate left, this is Flora Okonji. She's an actress from Millaz Production. To my immediate right is Mike Ndeda from the same production, that is Millaz Production. And to the farthest right is Ileene Anyona, doubles up as an actress as well as a theater arts director from the same production house, that is Millaz Production Company. Again, like I said, it's still an ongoing festival, so come support art to the fullest up until 14th of November. We take again a very short breather. Good Morning Kenya still continues after this break. Stay with us. We have overrun.